Hi, I'm Luna, and this is Luna Report. A cleaning girl was humiliated and bullied at an elite robotics festival because she didn't seem as impressive as everyone else. They laughed at her until she pulled out her robot. And when it stepped into the arena, she defeated the other bots and made it to the final against the strongest one. What happened next? Find out on Luna Report. Back to the studio.
Thank you, Luna. Back to the studio. And we begin. The Robotics Future Tech Festival in San Francisco wasn't a conference, it was a coronation. The world's sharpest minds, forged in the halls of MIT, Stanford, and Caltech, descended on the Moscone Center like royalty. Drones buzzed overhead, LED walls flashed sponsor logos from Lockheed to NVIDIA, and the press pit crackled with feeds from CNN, Wired, and Forbes. This was no place for the forgotten. Amid the gleaming exosuits and polished egos, a girl moved quietly along the edge of the chaos. Dark t-shirt, canvas pants, a staff badge that read simply, Hall Team, a rag in her back pocket, and a tray of zip ties in her hand. No one looked twice. When someone did notice her, it was only to get a laugh. Watch the cable, honey. That's neural AI, not a soda spill. Cleaning lady on the battlefield, what's next? Janitors launching nukes? Hey, sweetheart, maybe pick up the trash while the real engineers save the world? She never flinched. She didn't return fire, didn't correct them. She just kept walking, tightening bolts, uncoiling wires, watching. Her name tag said Nia. That's all it offered. No school affiliation, no company logo. Just one syllable the crowd dismissed in less than one blink. But the cameras missed her for a reason. She didn't need them yet. The audience poured into the main arena, 3,200 seats, 3 hexagonal rings, steel barriers buzzing with magnetic fields. The air smelled of hot metal, ozone, and overpriced espresso. The lineup was stacked. Each team fielded their crown jewel, fully autonomous combat prototypes built for military evaluation. An MIT drone hound that could dodge bullets mid-leap. A Caltech six-legged crawler designed for high-terrain combat. Stanford's angular beast of carbon black armor, coded by a team that had collectively won 4 DARPA grants. Then something went wrong. In match 3, the Stanford bot froze mid-strike. Sparks flew. A sensor fried. The crowd murmured. Organizers panicked. A 30-minute delay loomed. And in the middle of it, a voice spoke. Quiet, calm, from the edge of the ring. I have one. It came from the girl with the rag. The officials stared. Someone in the control booth laughed into their mic. She brought a mop to a mech fight. Fine, one announcer said, sarcasm oozing. Let's give her 5 minutes. For entertainment. The crowd erupted in chuckles. Phones rose. TikToks queued. She walked backstage alone. Back where no cameras followed, Nia crouched by a gray case beneath the bleachers. She didn't kneel. She didn't hesitate. She opened the latch. Inside, a bot. Matte black, no decals. No name, no visible ports. Just clean design, lean limbs, and edges sharp enough to slice air. She inserted a flash drive. No cloud sync. No updates. Just raw code. She pressed one key, run. The bot didn't whir. It didn't beep. It stood. And the war began. Nia's bot stepped into the ring like a shadow cast in tungsten. No hum, no startup sequence, just presence, quiet and lethal. The announcer's voice cracked through the arena, more amused than impressed. Introducing the cleaning unit. Laughter surged again. Someone near the front row shouted, "Don't forget to sweep the floor when you're done." She didn't even blink. Across the arena, the opponent waited, a sleek, high-polish bipedal prototype from Caltech, armed with predictive targeting, ultrasonic pulses, and a facial recognition interface. Nicknamed Ares, it had a documented 12-0 record in simulated urban warfare trials. The countdown began. Ares lowered into a stance. 2. Nia's bot didn't move. Horn playing, horn blared. Ares lunged. But what happened next was not a fight. It was an execution. Nia's bot didn't engage, it anticipated. Its limbs blurred, ducking under Ares' first strike, circling behind in one fluid motion, and delivered a precise blow to the bot's power junction. A single, clean hit. Ares collapsed in a heap of sparking wires. The arena went silent, no one clapped. It happened too fast? The announcer stumbled. Let's see that in slow-mo. Replays looped on the big screen. Frame by frame, the crowd saw it. Nia's bot didn't just move, it predicted every micro movement. No extra steps, no wasted energy. The next opponent was Stanford's crawler, taller, smarter, heavily armored. It didn't last 4 seconds. Nia's bot pivoted, slammed into its undercarriage, and flipped it with perfect leverage. The crawler didn't even fully boot its defense protocol. A gasp moved through the audience now, not laughter, not mockery, fear. Then MIT's champion bot rolled into the ring. Nicknamed Nemesis, it was the tournament's final boss. $1.2 million in R&D. Every media outlet had pre-written headlines about its victory. But as the match loaded, the system glitched. Nemesis refused to engage. On screen, a message blinked. Engagement denied. Risk level unacceptable. What? The judge muttered, checking the diagnostics. It aborted the match? MIT's bot had refused to fight. The arena was frozen. Nia stood motionless backstage, her face unreadable, her ponytail slicked to one side from the heat. The judges scrambled. One whispered, "This can't be right. Run the code." A silence fell as they extracted the AI core from her bot. No security layers. No team watermark. Just handwritten code. C++. One of the judges, an AI veteran with 3 patents to his name, stared at the syntax like it was sacred scripture. "This isn't standard AI," he said, voice tight. "It's handwritten autonomy. No libraries, no fluff. It's perfect." And that's when the journalist from Wired, trying to find anything about the mysterious girl, scanned her badge into the festival database. And froze. Name Nia Drake, former lead architect, NASA Combat AI Initiative. Designer of Mars rover hostile terrain response protocols. Resigned 4 years ago after the Cerberus disaster. Her partner had died. She vanished after that. Until now. Until a mop, a case, and 5 minutes. By the time the third replay finished, no one in the audience was speaking. The arena that had once echoed with laughter now buzzed with static tension. People looked at each other like they'd woken into a different reality. Nia stood by the edge of the control floor, arms folded. She hadn't stepped into the spotlight. She didn't raise her voice. But somehow, the silence belonged to her. Backstage, a Caltech engineer who had jeered earlier now whispered, "That's Nia Drake? That Nia?" His teammate didn't answer. His face had gone pale. In the VIP suite above, a DARPA representative was already on the phone. "Get me DC, no delays." "Yes, her. She's operational again." Down on the main floor, the judges huddled around a monitor, pointing at code segments they didn't understand. One line triggered a debate about recursive heuristics, so advanced it bordered on quantum decision trees, except there was no quantum hardware. "How the hell did she do this on analog servos?" one muttered. But it wasn't just the code. Security logs showed Nia had checked into the event under an alias, no sponsor, no university. She wasn't registered to compete, she had no lab affiliation, she hadn't even rented a booth. She was on paper a floor tech. That alone should have disqualified her. But the crowd didn't want disqualification. They wanted truth. A group of students from Stanford who had once joked about the janitor bot now hovered by the edge of the ring, whispering nervously. One of them had posted a video earlier, Nia wiping a railing, followed by the caption, "Cleaning up the nerd mess, lol." It had gone viral, millions of views. Now that video was being ripped down faster than they could react. Too late. The internet had already flipped. She wrote that bots brain solo? This is real engineer energy. No degrees, just results. NASA should be begging her back. In the press zone, a reporter from Forbes asked the first real question aloud. Why was she working with a mop? No one answered. But they all remembered now. The mop, the rag, the silence. Because Nia had watched everything. She had been there during setup, sound checks, backstage prep, every bot that moved, every software update keyed in, every proprietary handshake flashed across a dev screen. She had been there, folding wires, quiet and invisible. And none of them had seen her. Except maybe the bots. And one by one, the official teams started receiving penalties, then warnings, then full disqualifications. A quiet email arrived in each team's inbox from the ethics committee. Unauthorized surveillance, Rule 7.4, competitive espionage. They had tried to reverse engineer her code and got caught because she let them. The fallout began in whispers, but it spread like a detonation. DARPA's head of robotics, Colonel Vance, arrived within the hour. No press briefing, no handshake. He walked straight to the control floor and reviewed the match logs personally. After 5 minutes, he turned to the judges and said only, she rewrote the game. The sponsors started pulling out next, not because they were ashamed, but because the bots they had backed now looked primitive. On the festival's main screen, the leaderboard updated automatically. First place, UN registered combat efficiency score 100, code integrity score 100, autonomy index 14.7. Below it, MIT's bot profile flickered before being marked withdrawn, The crowd murmured. Then someone shouted from the nosebleeds, "Where's her booth?" There was no booth. Instead, the camera feeds cut to the staff corridor where Nia stood against the wall, her case closed, her badge removed, a girl in janitor's gear. A CNN reporter caught up to her. "Miss Drake, do you have a statement for the press?" Nia looked at the camera, not defiant, not triumphant, just clear. "I didn't come to play," she said. "I came to remind them what real war looks like." The clip hit Twitter. 60 million views in 2 hours. The hashtag Nia Drake trended alongside Mopovgod and Code Like Nia. But for the engineers, the tech elite, and the judges, what followed wasn't fandom, it was fire. The ethics panel began cross-referencing logs, emails, wireless traffic. Dozens of bots had tried to listen to Nia's during boot time, sniffing for patterns, copying input behaviors. One team had even rerouted a thermal camera backstage. All of them had tried to cheat her. None succeeded. And she'd known it all along. The panel released a brief statement. Due to multiple violations of protocol, 17 teams have been disqualified, prize eligibility is revoked, accreditation suspended pending further review. That included MIT, Stanford, Caltech. Entire reputations evaporated in one paragraph. The head of the Stanford team, once considered a shoo-in for a DARPA internship, was caught on mic begging his advisor, "Please, you have to fix this. We didn't know she was watching." But she had been. And she hadn't said a word. That silence was now a thunderclap. Inside the control center, a buzz erupted. DARPA's private signal had come in. Nia was offered a classified contract. 7 figures. She read the terms, didn't smile, closed the screen. "I'm not interested in building weapons for people who laughed while I cleaned their cables." Then she stood, hoisted her case over her shoulder, and turned to the exit. She didn't need the podium. The world already knew. She didn't wait for the applause. By the time the festival organizers realized she was walking out, Nia had already crossed the maintenance bay. Her mop cart sat untouched in the corner. She left it behind, keys still clipped to the side. Someone from the press tried to intercept her at the loading dock. Nia Drake. One question, please. How long have you been working on that bot?" She stopped only for a breath. Then, 4 years. And then, more quietly, long enough to know I wasn't ready until today. Then she vanished through the side door. The festival was still unraveling. The security chief called in a full audit of team communications. Footage surfaced of an MIT grad whispering to a Stanford engineer over shared coffee. You see her code keys? She probably doesn't even encrypt. They had tried to copy her. But Nia had written her bot the way some people write secrets in journals. Deep, private, painful. Every line of C++ was laced with math that had no library equivalent. Her bot didn't just act, it understood. In the judges' lounge, someone finally asked what had been buried under all the technical amazement. Why was she here like that? A mop? A rag? A junior staffer from the venue looked up from his tablet. He'd been the one to assign her the staff badge. She called 6 weeks ago, said she needed work, said she used to build robots. I thought she meant factory arms or something. Did you know who she was? The staffer shook his head. She was quiet, said she didn't want attention, just wanted to be close to the machines again. That silence haunted the room. Meanwhile, in the sponsor suites, chaos had replaced confidence. One of the top defense contractors who had paid $2.3 million to showcase their AI swarm drone system now watched a replay of Nia's bot dismantling a threat in 2 frames. "Get her on a plane," the executive barked into the phone. "I don't care what it costs." But Nia wasn't taking calls. She was gone. The next day, Wired's front page showed a grainy photo of her in the loading bay, case over one shoulder, walking alone under the sodium lights. The headline read, "The future of war came in canvas shoes." Underneath, a poll quote, "She didn't fight for applause, she fought because no one else remembered how." That night, the team she'd humiliated deactivated their bots. Not out of shame, out of futility, because every movement, every victory, every breath their machines had taken in that ring had already been predicted, overwritten, and outclassed by a woman they'd mistaken for the cleaning crew. They hadn't just lost a competition. They had lost the illusion of being the best. At 3:47 a.m., a hidden server deep within NASA's retired Mars Ops division pinged online. A single access key authenticated. One by one, encrypted files blinked open, combat telemetry, hostile response logs, and autonomous behavioral simulations that hadn't been touched in 4 years. The access belonged to a former program lead, cleared level 5. Status, resigned post-trauma. Nia Drake. No alerts triggered. She didn't download anything. She uploaded a full diagnostic stream from her bot. Not to brag, not for credit, to leave a record. Inside that archive, among mountains of decommissioned code and forgotten neural maps, her bot stood as something else. Its decision tree didn't mimic human behavior. It evolved past it. The root command wasn't eliminate threat, it was understand danger. It didn't choose violence, it chose the moment before violence and ended it there. NASA's remaining internal AI experts reviewed the stream in stunned silence. She rebuilt Cerberus, one finally whispered, and it learned. Cerberus, the black file. The Mars rover that had gone rogue killed its co-operator and caused the shutdown of the combat AI initiative. The disaster Nia had disappeared after. But this wasn't Cerberus 2.0. This was its answer. And it worked. Meanwhile, in San Francisco, the Robotics Festival tried to clean up the mess. The director of programming issued a carefully worded statement. We were proud to showcase such groundbreaking talent. As if they'd planned it, as if they hadn't mocked her face behind screens labeled utility staff. That same morning, half the volunteers walked out in protest. One left a note taped to the tech team's door. You handed a goddess a mop and laughed, we're done here. DARPA held a press conference later that afternoon. They confirmed that Nia Drake had declined all contracts. The director cleared his throat and read the single sentence she sent them in response. I didn't build a weapon, I built a warning. Reporters didn't know what to ask after that. The bots were silent, their engineers quieter. In a coffee shop 3 blocks from the venue, Nia sat alone. Her black case rested against the booth wall. Her badge was gone. Her hair was down. Her hands curled around a warm ceramic cup. Across from her, no press, no execs. Just a folded napkin and an open notebook filled with code handwritten in blue ink. A young waitress walked over, shy. You were amazing, she said, her voice barely audible. That thing you built, I've never seen anything move like that. Nia looked up. Her eyes were calm but sharp, like steel cooled in winter water. You will, she said gently. One day you'll build something even better. And then she smiled. On day 3 of the festival, the reckoning arrived, not in silence, but in headlines. Forbes, 17 elite teams disqualified after AI espionage scandal. CNN, she came to clean, she left them in code dust. Who is Nia Drake? DARPA, a new standard, the Drake Protocol in autonomous combat AI. The tech world scrambled. Startups withdrew pending investments, professors erased blog posts. Sponsors canceled influencer campaigns built around the bots that failed to last 5 seconds against Nia's ghost. But the worst blow came from within. MIT revoked the competition credentials of its team. Internal emails leaked. We underestimated her. Everyone did. Stanford released a statement claiming deep regret for the behavior of representatives. They didn't name names, but the engineering world already knew who had mocked her most loudly. One of them, a robotics golden boy with a $500,000 grant, was filmed weeping outside the arena. I thought she was janitorial staff, he kept repeating. He wasn't alone. The tech CEO tried to apologize via a LinkedIn post. She wiped tables. I thought she was maintenance. Turns out she was rewriting the laws of warfare. It was ratioed in an hour. Beneath every thread, one comment stood tall. You looked at genius and saw a mop. Nia didn't respond to any of it. But her silence had momentum. University labs began restructuring their AI ethics programs overnight. New job postings included one line inspired by her words. This position respects quiet brilliance. If you don't apply. DARPA quietly began developing a new category in its evaluation models, the highest tier Drake-class autonomous behavior. No one yet knew what qualified for it, but everyone knew who defined it. Back at the Moscone Center, a quiet cleanup crew worked the arena floors. A girl in a polo shirt and cargo pants paused beside the scorched outline of where Nia's bot had stood. She reached down, picked up a fragment of black casing mat, sharp-edged cool. She tucked it into her pocket. When her shift ended, she went home and opened her laptop. She didn't post. She started coding. By morning, the robotics world had changed, but most didn't know it yet. Nia wasn't trending anymore, she was dominating. CNN ran a full segment, Wired ran 3. DARPA's head of field AI called her bot the most complete autonomous combat system ever built. MIT's research director refused interviews. Stanford shut down their robotics blog completely. But behind the headlines, the panic was real. Private Slack channels leaked, emails too. We thought she was a joke. She had no team, no gear, and wiped the floor with us. Interns were fired, grant contracts pulled. A startup with $40 million in funding lost its military contract in 12 hours. Their CEO posted an apology. It got buried under comments. "You mocked the janitor. She rewrote the battlefield." Nia said nothing. She'd left San Francisco that morning. No ticket, no press, just gone. Her exit photo, a blurry shot of her walking down the pier with her black case, went viral. There she goes. One caption read, "No badge, no backers, just history." Meanwhile, teams tried to defend themselves. Excuses changed hourly. She exploited a flaw. She reverse-engineered our data. She used predictive mirrors, must have copied us. The festival's ethics committee released a statement. There is no evidence she broke any rule. What she built simply worked. They didn't know how else to explain it. Later that day, the event director issued a correction to the official leaderboard. A final name added. Champion NIA Drake. Underneath, affiliation independent. Bot name none. Operating time 007. Opponents neutralized 3. Damage taken 0. One commentator summed it best. You handed her a mop. She handed you extinction. And the worst part? They still didn't know what she'd really built. Because the bot she deployed wasn't her final form. It was just the test run. The Moscone Center was nearly empty now. Vendors packed up banners no one cared about anymore. Drones sat dormant on tables. Robots that once promised the future now looked like scrap. Nobody wanted to compete anymore. What was the point? The winning bot had no logo, no promo, no pre-fight trailer. It had no name and no hype team. Just a black case and a girl with a rag. In the private lounges upstairs, teams huddled in quiet shame. A Stanford rep tried to rally what was left of her crew. She beat us, sure, but we had funding, pressure, visibility. She didn't have the same obstacles. Her assistant didn't even look up. She was the obstacle. Rumors swirled Nia had built 3 more units, that she had offers from private militaries, that the mop cart she left behind contained blueprints to an anti-surveillance algorithm DARPA had never cracked. None of it could be confirmed because Nia had disappeared. Not into fame, into silence. Across the country, in a quiet town outside Boulder, Colorado, an old garage light flickered on. Inside, an old rover sat dismantled, its frame rusted, its code base untouched in years. A photo sat taped to the monitor. Nia and a man, both in Marsops uniforms. His name was handwritten below. Caleb, deceased, Cerberus incident. Nia stood beside the rover, her case at her feet, her laptop already open. She didn't cry, she didn't hesitate. She got to work, not for revenge, not for applause, to finish what they had started. Back at the festival, news crews hunted for statements. The organizers stood behind velvet ropes, facing down questions they weren't trained to answer. Will she be banned from future events? Is her AI too advanced to be legal? Did she infiltrate with a fake ID? None of the answers mattered. Because outside the building, a new crowd had formed. Not sponsors, not execs. Students, coders. Dropouts, tinkerers, mechanics in thrift store boots and hand-soldered parts. They weren't there to compete. They were there because they finally saw someone who looked like them, and she won. Nia never needed a trophy. She already passed the torch. 2 weeks after the festival, the world was still trying to catch up. DARPA's proposal to rename their highest AI classification to Drake-level autonomy was approved. MIT quietly retired its top combat bot. The team lead disappeared from the public directory. Stanford's AI lab went on hiatus. Nia's name never appeared in any sponsorship list, but everywhere she was present. A photo of her case appeared in Wired's top 10 inventions of the decade. A quote from her final interview was stenciled across a Seattle hacker space. The best engineers don't build for applause. They build so no one dies. A scholarship fund appeared under the name Caleb Foundation, anonymous in registration, but the domain had one hidden subpage containing a scanned notebook in Nia's handwriting, diagrams, notes, and a single phrase on the last page. Quiet doesn't mean weak. It means I watched everything. In Colorado, the garage stayed dark most days, but the rover was no longer broken. Nia had stripped it to bone, rewired its processor, and renamed its core system, Phoenix. This one didn't carry weapons. It carried tools, autonomous search and rescue, medical deployment in war zones, behavior learning in crisis events. Because war, she had learned, wasn't just about who could strike first. It was about who still cared to heal what was left. At the next festival, there was a new rule. No public commentary on staff, volunteers, or unregistered participants. Violations result in immediate expulsion. A silent tribute buried in policy. In the audience, among polished execs and choreographed panels, sat a girl in a dark shirt typing into a beat-up laptop. No one asked who she was. But one camera caught her screen. She was running her first sim. She had named her bot Echo, and above the line of code in blue pen, a message was written across the frame. For the one who showed me I don't need permission. Back in Boulder, Naya closed her notebook and stepped out into the early snow, her case locked behind her, her signal clean. She didn't come back to be seen. She came to remind them, without her, the future doesn't move.